Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Way the World Works. Today, I want to talk about one of the famous biases. And if you don't have it already, there is a great Tuttle Twins guide to beware your bias. And so what does that mean? Bias is like the way that we approach situations. Like all of us have a bias, meaning all of us are going into anything with a preconceived idea of what something is. And when we do that, we shut ourselves off from learning something new or from challenging our worldviews. And let me tell you, even if we are resolute and we are so strong in the things we believe in, we have to have those ideas challenged in order to strengthen them. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you have to really be willing to be wrong, which is, none of us like to be wrong. It is a very humbling experience, but I know that I wouldn't have the beliefs that I have today without being challenged and saying, okay, I was looking at this with a very specific, narrow view, and it's not doing me any good because now I'm shutting my mind off to new ideas, to ideas like, again, the ones I believe in now, individualism, individual liberty, all those good things. So today we're going to talk specifically about group think. And that actually is pretty easy to guess what the meaning is just by hearing the word group think. What does your group think? So let me ask you this. Have you ever been like peer pressured to believe an idea simply because the people you hang out with or that you're around believe that idea? This is that idea of group think. It's thinking that something is true just because everyone around you believes it. And of course, that is a really dangerous idea because if you're stuck in what we call echo chambers meaning like, when you go in a cave, if you guys hang out in caves, but if you go in certain caves or rooms that echo, you can say like, hello, 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 and it echoes. Well, imagine that being ideas, right? It's not a real echo chamber, but it's a group you're around where you are all just echoing. You're all saying the same ideas back and forth. And so you're not having those ideas challenged. So groupthink, that happens a lot. We think because our team or our group thinks something, it must be true because of course it is, because that's what my team thinks. And it's really interesting to me because you go throughout history and there was Galileo Galilei, who was a scientist. So back at this time, everybody believed that the earth was the center of the universe and everything, moved around the earth. And that was a big teaching of the Catholic Church at the time, which was like the main church. In fact, back then, the Catholic Church had so much political control that it was almost in its own way a form of government. So then the scientist comes around and he says, oh, wait, no. Actually, the earth revolves around the sun. And they were like, how dare you? You're not supposed to say that. And he was like shunned and like exiled from society because he spoke something different than what the group believed. He went against group think, and they couldn't even handle hearing something that, different from what other people were saying. So we get into this problem today, and we get into it in a way that is really detrimental because not only are we not challenging our own worldviews, but then we're labeling everyone who disagrees with our groupthink, with what we think, as bad. Sometimes they call this othering because you think about like, oh, well, those other people, they're not like me. They don't agree with me. And so this can be really, really dangerous when you're trying to have civil discourse. You're trying to debate ideas because people go into this with their bias of thinking, well, no, my group thinks that this is a certain way. And so, so let's talk about maybe equality as an example. So equality used to be kind of universally known as equality for all. Everybody is treated equally, especially when you want to go to the Constitution's definition of that. It's that the government cannot deny privileges or rights to anybody based on things like their gender, the color of their skin, because people have no control over that. That's silly, right? Equality is for all people, equal opportunity. Everybody has the opportunity to pursue something, but they might not have the opportunity of outcome. They might not have the sure thing. Everybody has the right to apply to a college, but that doesn't mean everybody has the right to get into a college. But this has switched now. Now equality has come more to mean equity, which is that freedom of outcome, meaning everybody should get into college sometimes because of their race. So you're flipping it on its head, but this has become groupthink now for a very specific group of people and more widespread than we'd like to believe sometimes. But because of that, now people think, okay, well, my team believes equity is good and moral. And if you don't believe in my definition of equity, if you believe in this version of equality, you're a bad person. You're not good. You're not moral. And this gets really dangerous, right? Because then we start thinking in terms of us versus them. It's this group collectivist, which we all know is a red flag for, oh, there's probably problems with this ideology. So it goes into this very dangerous thing of my team is right, your team is wrong. But not only that, your team is bad. Your team wants, the worst, maybe even things as bad as like with equality, like your team is racist for not seeing things my way. And that gets really dangerous. And then we live in these echo chambers and we just start to become more divided. Groupthink has obviously always been around. I think I got really obsessed with the golden gilded age in America recently, where you had like these really like wealthy society elites. And this was about the same time that like unions were getting growing in popularity. And the reason I bring this up is you had the workers, the unions living in their own echo chambers of saying, how dare the rich have more than us? Look at us. We slave all day in their factories. And then you have the very wealthy, the people who own the businesses saying, oh my goodness, why are these workers so ungrateful? We risked our own money and our fortunes and our reputations to start these companies. They wouldn't have this opportunity without us. And so you had these distinct groups thinking different things, and neither of them willing to challenge their worldview. Now, I do think, if you go back to Locke and life, liberty, property, that the wealthy elite were probably in the right in that circumstance. But I say this to say there have always been these echo chambers. There has always been group think, but it was more the people you hung out with in the real world. Now, things have gotten bad because now groupthink has leaked over into or bled over. I say that, but I'm not talking about bleeding. Bled over meaning like gone over into the internet, into social media, which has gotten pretty dangerous because the algorithms, this code that knows what we like to see, keeps showing us more of what we like to see. So if I'm clicking on videos or if I'm liking or watching videos that are only on things that I believe, the algorithm is going to keep showing me the same types of videos. So it's going to lead me to believe that the world is one way and anyone who disagrees with me is wrong. And, again, like I said, that's dangerous because you can start to think, well, I'm moral, clearly, because I'm the best. And then you think the other team, I don't like that there are teams, I'm just using that as an example, the other side of the political aisle, like, oh my gosh, well, they are wrong, clearly. But here's what's even more interesting about that. People's reality is being distorted because of these algorithms that are keeping us in these echo chambers. Over the last few weeks, I noticed that my feeds have actually there's been 3 different realities, and I won't go to the topic or what was in which, but there were, because I have friends in various circles, I have my ideological, academic, political friends, and then I have friends that I know from music things. And so there's different sections, and my music friends tend to be more on the left and more liberal in the old sense, not classical liberal. And my other friends tend to be not that, a little bit different than that, more moderate or conservative. And so I've noticed that when breaking news happens, and we didn't even have full details on this story yet, but I had one section of my news feeds on my social media who believed a completely different reality than my more conservative friends. And then I had people in the middle, more of my like libertarian and moderate friends who were taking a very different approach and kind of saying, we don't have all the answers yet, so we don't know the reality yet. But then 2 separate sides who had already decided a reality. And that was what they believed. And I was so confused because I'm like, oh, have they not seen this news report or that news report? And they hadn't. And it hadn't even occurred to them that there was a different reality. And then I made the huge mistake of reading the comments, because comments are just filled with hateful people who are actually, if you want to see some biases in action, if you want to see how bad people are, just ask your parents, because I'm sure if they've gone through comment sections in any social media post, they've seen it firsthand. And so I would see people arguing and they would say, well, no, that's not the case. It's this thing. And both were actually inaccurate in some in some instances, but they would fight back and forth because they're like, no, I saw this. This is what my team believes. And so they were so stuck in this groupthink that it just divided. And it was these algorithms, this code. Algorithm is like a code, like I said, that when you like something, it shows you more of what you like, which I actually don't mind sometimes, because when it comes to cool videos that I'm watching on, like how to bake bread, and I'm getting more really cool bread recipe videos that I like. But when it comes to politics, it's really narrowing us down and keeping us in our groups and perpetuating, making the groupthink worse. And so now we're only hearing one side, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my goodness, people have a different perception of reality. And of course, if you subscribe to the Ayn Rand, which was a more objectivist belief, she used to say A equals A. And what that meant is there is really only one truth and one reality. It is an objective truth. It is an objective reality. But people are perceiving it so differently. But there was a reality. It just didn't really matter to any of these sides. And so it was really scary and really fascinating to me to see how groupthink has evolved out of, physical groups and communities we hang out with. And now it's online. Now, we saw this during COVID a lot because people were seeing very different things on COVID. Some people were seeing everybody's dying from COVID. And if you don't get your vaccine, if you don't wear the mask, you are, going to literally kill your neighbors if they get it. And we saw one team look at that, one side look at that and think, oh my goodness, if anyone doesn't believe in this, they are not only disagreeing with me, they're not only wrong, they are killing their neighbors. And of course, that was a little blown out of proportion. But then you saw people on the other side saying, no, this is the way it is, and taking a view and then not knowing any, staying in their own group think that way. And even though we all have a bias, so clearly I'm not going to tell you that I didn't side or believe in one group's opinion more than the other. I did. But we have to challenge those. And that doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily be wrong, but you might be surprised when you learn a new fact or you get out of that groupthink. And even if you don't, which, a lot of times you don't, you're strengthening your own beliefs, and you're also understanding how to debate or how to have this discourse, how to have these conversations with the other side, because now you know their side. Now you've gotten out of your groupthink and you understand a little bit about how they think. And let me tell you, you are never going to win a debate or change hearts and minds unless you can understand what the other side thinks. And you're not going to be able to do that if you're stuck in groupthink all the time. So I want you to remember that, because like I said, of course, we all have our own, preconceived, meaning things that happened before. So we go into situations with ideas and lenses that we view the world in already. We all do it. We are all humans. But when we let that narrow vision stop us from considering any other idea, or from thinking that we are morally better than people, or that something is true because our group believes it, step out of that. Step out of that and challenge your ideas and go talk to someone. Oh my goodness, please go talk to someone. And I know that it's hard to have these discussions because in this day and age, a lot of times people who don't believe in you have decided you're bad for not believing in what they believe in. And or that, you're lying, you're not full of facts. And so that conversation gets shut off. But make friends with people you don't always agree with, and really encourage them to have these really powerful conversations, challenging each other's worldviews. Because let me tell you, I think that's not only the way to earn the respect of people who you disagree with, but it's also a way to strengthen and challenge your own ideas. So yeah, I just wanted to share that bias with you today. And in my very biased opinion, you should check out the Beware of Your Bias, because this is great. And I think right now, and how divided we are in the world, everyone can benefit from this book. So check that out. We will leave it there. I say we, but it's just me here. We meaning all of us. But I will leave it there today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast, share with your friends. And until next time, I will talk to you later.